Let's bring in right now Florida Congresswoman and former DNC Chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Yeah, this is concerning. I'm curious your reaction to this breaking news. And what kind of questions would you have about this?
Well, first, I'm thankful that the Secret Service was able to, well in advance of the president coming to Florida, identify this concerning hunting stand. It's also my first question. I represent the county to the south, Broward County. Both counties are suburban, particularly the Palm Beach area near the Palm Beach Airport is a suburban area, not a rural one. My first question is the same. Are there any hunting areas in and around the airport? It would be hard to imagine there are. Hunting areas would be much more likely to be out west in Palm Beach County, nearer and around the Everglades. So very, very concerning. Thankful to the Secret Service for acting quickly and being able to get that addressed.
Yeah, 100%. Well, let's move now to the polling, which shows that Americans are blaming Republicans slightly more than Democrats for the shutdown. But the White House thinks public sentiment will turn in its favor. They're saying voters will see Trump paying the troops and law enforcement while Democrats refuse to reopen the government while federal workers are missing paychecks. Do you feel like Democrats still have the upper hand? They had it to start, that's for sure.
What this is about, Alex, is making sure that people in America's healthcare costs don't explode. As a breast cancer survivor, I've shared with you that I know firsthand when you're facing a life-threatening illness, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And I have had many constituents now share with my staff and I the premium notices that they're now getting. We have a receptionist in Fort Lauderdale who got a notice that her health care insurance is going up $3,200 a year. A father of 5, their health insurance was going to go up $1,200 a month. I mean, that's a 297% increase for a father with 5 children. I mean, we have constituents who are going to face double, triple, and even quadruple increases, and not just people who have Affordable Care Act policies, Alex. People know that when you have people who are losing health care, or when the system really has more sick people in it than healthy people, everyone's costs go up. I have 203,000 people in my district alone who are going to see their healthcare costs explode, and 82,000 who will lose it entirely. That's outrageous, and we need to fight for them.
Yeah. Well, Democrats balked at an offer from Senate Majority Leader John Thune guaranteeing a vote on extending Obamacare subsidies, but in exchange for voting to reopen the government. Some Republicans are reportedly discussing with the White House ways to prevent the tax credits from expiring at the end of the year. Do you see Republicans compromising on the health care credits as they are facing outrage from their constituents over what you're talking about, these skyrocketing premiums? I mean, should your Senate colleagues take Thune up on that offer?
This is very simple. We need to sit down at the negotiating table and focus on negotiations around reopening the government, and as part of the end of the year fiscal year spending plan, that we negotiate an extension of the enhanced premium tax credits so that we don't see an explosion in people's healthcare costs and millions of people either having unacceptable, intolerable increases or losing their healthcare entirely. We don't need to see hospitals closing, which is going to happen. Healthcare programs, public health facilities closing. This is simple. The House needs to come back into session. Mike Johnson needs to call us back into session, and we need to be there. We've not had a shutdown in which the House doesn't stay in session and we don't sit down and try to hammer this out. Trust me is not a reliable negotiating point. We can't trust them. Donald Trump spends money any which way he pleases, and he's not a king, which was the reason that there were millions of people protesting across the country yesterday. He can't just decide to extend those premium tax credits himself. We have to do it in the law, and Congress has to make sure we come back and do that together with the president signing it when we send it to him.
You know, I want to reflect on that, what happened yesterday, the No Kings protests. And I know the organizers say about 7 million people did it across this country. And that would include you, who marched in a demonstration in your district. What's your big takeaway from yesterday? What's your response to Speaker Mike Johnson and other Republicans who are just calling these demonstrations hate America rallies?
We had thousands of people march in these rallies across South Florida yesterday, and millions across the country. They were peaceful and really joyful, because there were people coming to celebrate democracy and fight for the democracy that they believe in, and put a marker down that says no authoritarian autocratic rule in the United States of America is acceptable, and that we need to come together peacefully to help make sure that we can improve the quality of people's lives, so we can bring costs down, that we don't have a president who is rounding people up, regardless of their immigration status, including citizens and people who came here lawfully. People have reached a breaking point, and that's what these millions of people were taking a stand on yesterday. And that momentum is going to take us into Election Day next year, where I think we're going to see a lot of success for Democrats across the country as a result.
Okay. Florida Congresswoman and our friend Debbie Wasserman Schultz, good to see you. Thank you so much.